While front-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive have been around in concept since the early days of the automobile, each have had their popular periods of use. Firstly, for those about to complain about the lack of all-wheel drive representation, we didn't include it because in the end, all-wheel drive just generally wins. Up until the 1950s, nearly all cars on the road had been rear-wheel drive because of its sheer simplicity. The ease of having an engine that sent power down the car meant that there was enough space in the engine compartment to fit all components. While some manufacturers have played around with front-wheel drive cars, most up until the time had still used longitudinal engines to get the job done. However, in 1959, BMC released their Austin Mini, which featured a transverse engine layout with gearbox and diff built in, allowing the floor pan to be flat and giving much more room in the cabin. Although this wasn't a new concept, the Mini popularized the layout. It's no wonder then that with the multitude of oil crises that hit from the 50s on, demand for small efficient cars skyrocketed, giving manufacturers more of an incentive to play smart with space and install transverse front-wheel drive layouts in their cars. Fast forward to today, and while rear-wheel drive is by no means gone, its monopoly on the car industry is no longer there. In 2013, 54% of all cars sold in the US were front-wheel drive, while just 12% were rear. In Europe, that rear-wheel drive number is even smaller. While we're just looking at two layouts, they can be arranged in different ways. In front-wheel drive, you've generally just got the one option, front engine front-wheel drive, but that can be arranged either longitudinal or transverse. For rear-wheel drive cars, there are a few more options. Front engine rear-wheel drive, mid-engine rear-wheel drive, or rear engine rear-wheel drive as you'd find in the Porsche 911. Historically, front-wheel drive was used for the cheap city cars and rear-wheel drive was used for performance cars. But that's not to say that front-wheel drive doesn't have performance characteristics. There have been hot hatches blistering around tracks far faster than many supposed performance cars since the 60s. When the rear wheels are powered and traction is broken, the car acts like a pendulum, allowing the back end to swing around the front, creating the thing we know and love to be oversteer. With the front wheels being powered and traction being broken, the car has to still steer with those same wheels. This causes the wheels to not grip and turn as much as needed, creating that gut-wrenching feeling of understeer. The fact that the front wheels are also doing two jobs can lead to what's known as torque steer, where the car will pull left to right to fight traction, causing the driver to either have to lift off or resist and fight the torque. Both layouts are able to experience both understeer and oversteer, be that via lift-off braking or via shifting the weight too quickly, but their layouts make them more prone to each. Due to the fact that front-wheel drive cars have their engine and gearbox in the front of the car, it usually means that they're front-heavy, while rear-wheel drive cars can balance out their weight along the system, sometimes making their weight distribution perfectly 50-50, which can help handling. This also favours rear-wheel drive on a launch, as when you jump off the line, the weight is transferred to the back of the car, giving the wheels more grip and allowing you to take off quicker. On the other hand, due to front-wheel drive cars usually having more weight over their driven wheels, grip in snow and ice can often be better than the equivalent rear-wheel drive car. While it's usually pretty easy to distinguish a front-wheel drive from a rear-wheel drive car, some aren't what they seem to be. Take for instance the new Renault Twingo, or the late 70s Toyota Starlet. Small, efficient city cars that should have front-wheel drive platforms, right? Nope, they're both rear-wheel drive. And these aren't homologation specials like the Renault Clio V6 or Renault 5 Turbo that had to go rear-wheel drive for racing. These cars are just rear-wheel drive in nature. On the other hand, you had cars like the 1965 Oldsmobile Toronado, an American 7.5-litre V8, 400 horsepower, 5.5 meter long front-wheel drive car. In the end, each have their pros and cons, and the only way to choose is whether you prefer life nimbly darting through corners or tail out in a cloud of smoke. Let us know which one you prefer, and let the fight in the comments commence.